Helen, here we are at the annual general meeting, networking dinner, and today, seminar programme and big exhibition of the meet of the ISCE. So how do you feel it's gone so far?
Well, I think it's gone really well. It certainly seems to be larger this year. Obviously, it's our 11th ISCEx exhibition on the trot now, year in, year out. And certainly this year, it seems to be larger, more well attended, and we're certainly in a very upmarket venue, considering we're used to fairly bog standard hotel corporate venues, and to be somewhere quite historic is making a very nice change.
It is, it's fantastic. Great atmosphere in here too. A lot of people have come this year, haven't they? Which is, interesting subjects. I mean, is there generally a theme that you try and organise for a particular venue, or is it just topical according to the market?
Well, we do try to look at what the hot topics are within the industry, and as you know, we're very definitely the A within the AV industry, and so we have our special things that we're concerned about year in, year out. ISCEx2015 always features fairly heavily and has done since it was first sort of given to us all in 2008. So we've just had an interesting commercial seminar from one of the manufacturers on that. But what we've seen today with the first lecture and also the Warren Barnett Memorial Lecture given by Paul Scarborough is definitely about the convergence of audio and video with the IT infrastructure and the do's and don'ts of that, the pitfalls from two practitioners who've tried very hard to be working in those areas. So that's very much a hot topic. Kevin's talk was about audio over IP. We've had a bit of a running theme through the ISCEx seminars about voice over IP, but this was really the first time we've talked about audio over IP without using professional audio protocols. So that was very interesting to hear about.
What are the challenges for these technologies? And some would argue they've been around for ages and we should be getting up to speed with it all. If you're in the IT world, you've been running audio over IT networks for ages. So how can the IC help that, and where can it add its expertise in this sort of area?
Okay, well, the Institute of Sound and Communication Engineers is primarily a learned body. And so we focus on education of our membership, and we do that in three ways. One is with the seminars. We have formal training events, but we also have a very, very lively technical forum on our website where you can talk to practitioners who've been working in the industry for 60 years and get some really interesting feedback if you've got a technical question. On this particular subject, it's interesting because the audio industry has lagged behind for many, many years. We're very analogue orientated. That's what we all know and love. And leaping into the digital domain has taken a long while to happen. So in answer to your question, the ISCE is trying to get specialists who are practitioners in the field and also theorists to come in and talk to us and try and marry together the IT expert and the audio expert. And I think what was interesting about the first talk was it was a very stark warning given by Kevin from the CIE group that if us audio practitioners don't become IT literate, then we will eventually lose to the IT professionals, because as you very rightly said, they've been putting audio through their systems for years. I think what we would say, though, is what kind of audio have they been putting through their systems? For us as audio specialists, it's all about bandwidth, quality, uncompressed audio. And that's when you really start putting strain on the network, because we need a very large bandwidth. We need it to arrive very, very quickly. We can't afford any latency in order to have nice continuous audio. So we are actually challenging the IT networks. Obviously, that's improved as the network structures have improved. But I think we saw today a very interesting idea that we could have a backbone and run parallel off that backbone. And I thought, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that before personally, because there is this push towards convergence and this idea that perhaps that's not such a bright idea that struck a chord with me. So I should be personally having a rethink.
Do you know, I noted that down as an AV person. I noted that down instantly. I've also written about IT for years. And, you know, this issue of linked parallel networks versus converged audio, I mean, really, it was new to me. That's the first time I'd heard of it. So that's quite a big thing, isn't it?
It is a big thing. But I think it seemed to me, obviously I would need to do some more looking at this because it's the first time I've heard of it too. But I thought, that makes sense. That way we could actually be part of a bigger system, but we don't have to talk to every single IP element all the way up the height and the breadth of a building. It's not necessary. So why are we trying to do that if it means it's unstable?
It makes you think what customers have been told and what they've accepted. You know, if we think you can run anything over a network, it begs the question, what are they accepting as quality?
Absolutely.
If you think there's more work to be done in that area.
Well, it's interesting because I come from a speech intelligibility specialism, and obviously telephones and speech for many, many years we've all accepted the reduced telephone bandwidth, and that works absolutely fine when it's against your ear. But you try and do that in a public address scenario and suddenly you've got a very poor sounding system. And what we can never lose sight of is that the systems people have in their homes are very high quality in a very well-controlled acoustic environment, and they expect that of the public spaces that they go to, and they have no concept of the difficulties that acoustic elements can introduce into that. And so they would expect it to sound how it may sound in the living room, and clearly that's not going to happen. But interesting, that brings us on to our final talk of the day, which is by Professor Trevor Cox, who I'm sure that the public will have heard, and certainly your readership will have heard on Radio 4. He's like our poster man from the acoustics world, and he's trying to raise public awareness of acoustics for this idea. And his talk today is about acoustic aberrations and why in some circumstances we should embrace them.
It's funny, we have this acoustics versus DSP debate. Every time I look at a product,
yes,
it's either a DSP box or you're talking to a pure acoustician.
Yeah.
You know, where are we going with it all? I mean, it really is all about acoustics, really, isn't it? I mean, you have a few chips here and there, they can compensate, but...
Well, I'm glad you said that.
You need to have a good acoustics understanding, really.
I'm glad you said that, because that's where I come from. And within my company, our technical lead, Tony Stacey, he walks around the office all the time saying, acoustics is God, acoustics is God. So that's certainly where we come from. And that can be kind of hard for a technological company to understand, that at the end of the day, this is all out of their control. While it's in their box, it may very well be under control. But once you let it loose and it runs free, that's when the real stuff happens.
It's all about education, isn't it? We
Yes.
go back to the old chestnut, don't we?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a role for the ISCE. I mean, we hear a lot about Infocom training and CTS.
Yes.
You know, do you feel that ISCE is going to go in that direction?
Well, ISCE has done it ever since its inception, but we've never really done it on a massive scale. And it's certainly, we have a specialist subcommittee that's working on how we can deliver the gaps in the Infocom seminar education programme, because our membership is subtly different. We do have real hands-on installers and integrators. They've worked in this industry their entire lives, and they're trying to encourage a younger generation in, because what you may have noticed is I might be one of the youngest people at this conference, and clearly that's crazy. So we need to try and bring in the younger generation, educate them in all of the fundamentals and the basics, because it was very scary to hear that we might just end up with people sitting behind computers trying to do what we all do, and that's not the same thing in my mind. So yeah, we are looking as an institute at trying to formalise our education. There are issues for the institute around that, and they focus on the insurance required and the actual practical teaching skills that are needed and the accreditation associated with the courses. But that's something, as I say, that we're looking into, and that's a process that started about 5 years ago.
Well, good luck this afternoon. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic success. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you very much for talking to me. It was lovely to meet you.